Hello everyone, welcome back to the World Conflict Monitor channel. Please subscribe my channel. Today we are going to explore the Thailand Cambodia war timeline in a way you may not have seen before. We will examine it as if it were a complex product under review, where the exterior, interior, performance, safety features, unique selling points, price, and conclusion will help us better understand why this border conflict unfolded and what it means for the region. This is not just a historical dispute, it is a story of identity, power, pride, and survival. Imagine standing at the Preah Vihear temple, 1,000 years of stone heritage looking down at a battlefield of the 21st century. That is where our journey begins. The exterior of this conflict lies in its geography and visible borders. Thailand and Cambodia share an 800-kilometer boundary, but the most sensitive part is around the Preah Vihear temple, perched on a cliff of the Dangrek Mountains. From the outside, this temple looks like a magnificent cultural treasure, but for both nations it became the visible symbol of ownership, dignity, and sovereignty. The exterior story also includes the colonial-era treaties signed between France and Siam, where maps were drawn ambiguously, planting the seeds of dispute. Over the years, this exterior landscape witnessed fortifications, army posts, bunkers, and shell craters, all visible scars of the territorial disagreement. The physical environment, with jungles, mountains, and cliffs, added to the intensity, making military movement difficult and raising the stakes for whoever held the high ground. The interior of the conflict, however, is much shorter and simpler to grasp. At its heart, it is not just about land but about national identity. For Cambodians, the Preah Vihear temple represents their Khmer heritage, a jewel of Angkorian civilization. For Thais, it is tied to the memory of Siam's past power and territorial integrity. Inside the minds of the people, this was more than rocks and soil, it was history, pride, and national sentiment compressed into a few square kilometers. Performance can be measured in terms of military operations, diplomatic maneuvers, and the resilience of both nations during the clashes. From 2008 to 2011, performance was on display in the form of artillery duels, skirmishes, and military posturing. Thailand deployed tanks, armored vehicles, and long-range artillery, while Cambodia mobilized infantry and used fortified positions near the temple. In terms of diplomacy, both governments performed a balancing act, appeasing domestic nationalism while avoiding a full-scale war. The United Nations and ASEAN also entered the stage, pressuring the two sides to cease hostilities. The International Court of Justice, which had already ruled in 1962 that Preah Vihear belonged to Cambodia, was once again asked to clarify ownership of surrounding lands. Performance here is mixed. Militarily, neither side gained decisive victory, but politically, both managed to keep their regimes intact while rallying nationalist support. Safety features in this context are the mechanisms and systems meant to prevent total collapse into prolonged war. ASEAN's role as a regional safety net cannot be overstated. It acted like a diplomatic airbag cushioning the impact of conflict. Ceasefire agreements, international monitoring, and back-channel talks all acted like safety features designed to minimize casualties. Yet, like a product with weak brakes, these features often failed under pressure. Civilian lives were lost, villages were displaced, and soldiers died on both sides. Still, the presence of international organizations and the threat of economic consequences pushed both Thailand and Cambodia to eventually step back from the brink. Unique selling points of this conflict make it stand apart from other border disputes in Southeast Asia. Unlike ordinary territorial disagreements, the Thailand-Cambodia conflict was centered on a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Preah Vihear temple's sacred and historical significance elevated the dispute to a global stage. Another unique element is how nationalism was fueled through media and politics, turning the temple into a rallying cry. For Cambodia, defending Preah Vihear was seen as defending Khmer culture itself. For Thailand, asserting its claim meant safeguarding territorial pride. Unlike many wars where resources like oil or minerals are at stake, here the battle was for cultural memory, symbolic power, and historical legitimacy. That makes it an exceptional case study in how heritage can drive international conflict. Price in this war was paid in many ways. Financially, both nations spent millions on military mobilization, border defenses, and diplomatic campaigns. Economically, the clashes disrupted trade and local livelihoods in border regions, where ordinary farmers suffered more than politicians. Socially, the price was the loss of human life, the displacement of families, and the fueling of nationalist anger. In terms of reputation, both governments paid a price in international perception, as ASEAN's vision of peace and cooperation was stained by the sight of two member states exchanging artillery fire. Yet Cambodia gained recognition from UNESCO and international sympathy for defending its cultural site, while Thailand bore criticism for aggressive actions. The real price, however, was the emotional toll carried by citizens, who saw their ancient heritage turned into a frontline of destruction. In conclusion, the Thailand-Cambodia war timeline teaches us that conflicts are not always about vast resources or massive territories. Sometimes, just a small cliffside temple can ignite decades of tension. When we reviewed it through exterior, interior, performance, safety features, unique selling points, and price, we saw that this war was less about material gain and more about symbolic victory. Both nations performed with resilience, but their safety mechanisms struggled to protect civilians. The unique selling point of heritage made the conflict stand out, and the price was heavy in human, cultural, and diplomatic terms. Today, while the guns are silent, the memory of this war lingers, reminding Southeast Asia that peace is fragile when history, identity, and nationalism collide. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to the World Conflict Monitor channel for more deep explanations of global disputes.